Okay. I'm going to tell Sean the fiasco and tell you guys the fiasco. Here's another insurance problem. Yay!
Surprise.
So, United needed pre-authorization to go through IVF. We got that pre-authorization. And an essential part, as you know, of IVF is fertility drugs.
Shocking.
So then we called the pharmacy again, this specialty pharmacy, and they actually need another authorization sent to United that could take up to 14 days. And
we're having our baseline tomorrow.
Tomorrow's our baseline, and the next day is when we're supposed to start medication. So we're considering just paying out of pocket for the drugs.
Which would be...
She was like looking it up briefly and was like, yeah, Gonal F is $880, basically $1,000 a vial. And we would need enough for the whole cycle because the whole time is like 2 weeks basically of taking it.
So we would need to pay $14,000?
Maybe.
That's not happening.
Maybe.
That's 100% not happening. So
yeah.
I guess we're skipping this cycle then if that's the case.
Well, I don't know. And then, so we could pay out of pocket and try to get reimbursed. There isn't really another option. She's going to send me a list of places that, like, carry it and compare the prices with them. And then the other thing was I have a history of blood clots from one person on my mom's side of the family. And she was like, oh, I noticed that a year ago you mentioned that there's a history of blood clots. Did we ever find out if he did genetic testing or knows if there's a genetic connection?
Mm-hmm.
A year ago, and then I asked but didn't get an answer from like my family, and then she was like, oh, because there's a history, we might need to put you on a blood thinner as well, preventatively.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come off the blood thinner like before the transfer, and then go back on it.
Okay.
And like potentially for your whole pregnancy.
Hope it's not a horse pill.
Which also, it's another injection.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And it can cause like uncontrollable bleeding, basically,
and death, I'm sure.
No, well, yeah, I'm sure that's a side effect too, but like the whole bleeding thing, which happens during pregnancy, can be a little bit more dangerous. So yeah, I don't really know.
Kittens.
Oh my god, kitten. Yeah, this is cute.
What infuriates me the absolute most is we've never done this before.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what we don't know. So, like, how can they expect us to know that the medication needs a second pre-authorization?
Yeah.
We're like, hey, cool, let's do IVF. And they're like, okay, cool, we'll pre-authorize you through your insurance. Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not? Just kidding. Should have told me that a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
When we first figured out it was even more than a month ago. It was in December. It was in December when we went to have this talk with our doctor about wanting to go to IVF the next round.
Yeah.
So it's infuriating that
Oh my god.
that like we just aren't I feel like we are not being given all the information, and it makes me feel like we're doing something wrong.
I know, yeah.
Because like our whole lives we're like forgetful and like just, we feel like we're fucking lazy or whatever. So the fact that this is happening just makes me feel like a piece of shit.
If this is
like I'm doing something wrong.
If this is a potential thing that could happen, then send the prescription out like way earlier.
Like when you asked to fucking get authorized for IVF.
Right.
This is
They're
our
like,
this
okay,
is our
here's-
financial coordinator's job. That's literally her job. Which I can't be mad at her because I love her. But also like, get it together.
I don't
That is obviously a part of it. Like we were gonna do IVF and not have these drugs. So why the fuck was that not addressed in the first place?
Right, but that stupid part is an insurance problem thing. Like, we are approved for IVF. Mm-hmm. Drugs are critical to IVF. So therefore we are approved for drugs. Like, I think even the office is like, duh, like, that's standard. I don't really blame them necessarily, but I wish they had given us more of a cushion of time.
The thing is this has happened they've done this a bajillion times. So we can't be the first people ever in the history of all of their people that they've had babies, they've made babies for, that like this has happened to.
I know, but insurance plans and coverage changes every year. Policies and all that stuff. So,
cool, that's their job.
I know. I mean, all of it's on a time crunch. So the other thing is, like, just send it to me and process it later and send me a bill in the mail.
I don't want a bill for $14,000.
No, I know. Well, what would happen is they would process it, and it would take the time that we're doing the treatment, and then they would say, oh, it's been covered because it's gone through that 14-day authorization again. So it would be covered. It just would be, if by some freak circumstance, then we would agree to pay that larger amount. That's all hypothetical situation. That's not like what's actually happening. But anyway, so I don't know what to do, so Sean and I need to talk about it and see what's gonna happen and potentially skip this cycle, which I'm annoyed that I took birth control for 2 weeks.
With a reaction?
To
potential
just not
reaction. Do it. Mm-hmm. Just be like, just kidding.
This is crazy.
This is stupid.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do we have to tell them anything else?
No. We gotta go walk the dog.
We'll have to see if, like, we'll let you know if we're gonna move forward with the cycle. So, crazy. Bye.
I gotta pause my music.
Hi.
Am I there? Can you see?
Yeah, you're in here.
I can't see. Hi.
Hi. Okay, we got an update. Some better news. We don't have to fully cancel the cycle. It's just going to be postponed like 2 weeks or so. I'm going to take a break from birth control. Till Friday.
Just 2 days from now?
In 2 days, I'll take birth control again for a few days. I don't know the exact calendar yet. They haven't sent it over. And then I'll have a baseline ultrasound and we'll start the process normally, and this will give some time for those 2 medications to be authorized. Hopefully by then.
Yeah, so luckily we don't have to completely skip it and wait for your period.
We don't have to skip it, and we chose not to pay out of pocket and then get reimbursed because they couldn't 100% say that they could be reimbursed, even though I'm sure it would have been, but they just can't legally say that it would be reimbursed. So so
not great, but not terrible. So yeah. I'm glad. I'm feeling a lot better than yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday was very discouraging.
We're about 2 weeks behind. So our tentative egg retrieval initially was going to be the 18th through the 20th of February, but now it's going to be like the 7th through 9th of March.
That's a range of dates because they don't know the exact date. And also we determined that pending my estrogen and progesterone levels after the egg retrieval, if they're not too high, we're going to transfer one embryo without knowing if it's genetically normal. Yeah. And then the rest we're going to genetically test. Because I'm young and there's not really any risk factors that I have, the chances of things being abnormal are low. I think 20% to 30% is what our doctor said. And so we're going to just do a fresh transfer, I think. So the timeline kind of gets moved up a month instead of waiting for that genetic testing. So
which means means we'll probably have a Sagittarius.
Sean's very concerned about the zodiac sign of our future child and if they will get along.
Yeah, well, Sagittarius.
I wish we were having Aquarius, but
no, I want a Capricorn, mostly.
we're definitely too late for a Capricorn.
No, we're too early for a Capricorn.
No.
Yes. If you get pregnant in like, oh no, you wouldn't get pregnant in March, right? You would get pregnant in April, right?
Well,
how are the timelines?
no, it would be like late March because it would only be a few days after the egg
April,
retrieval.
May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. That's Capricorn.
Okay,
So
I'd
I'm
be
saying
okay
we're
with a
gonna I
Capricorn.
think we're gonna get pregnant too soon, and we're gonna end up with a Sagittarius, which I don't want because they're one of the 3 signs of notorious murderers and serial killers.
Hi, Rue.
So, still up for adoption. Trying to adopt her out before we have a baby.
Yeah.
Y'all have 9 months.
She loves the UK. She would love to go live in the UK.
Yeah, her mom was a little British, so.
Okay. We'll keep you updated.
What sign do you want your baby to be? Let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, good job. Sean's doing the YouTube thing.
I'm good at it.
No, like, I am curious if that was in the consideration or the mind of anybody. It was like, okay, this is not a determining factor, but just, like, thinking about it before it happened.
Yeah. I'm more concerned about that than I am, like, the sex of my baby. I'm like, is it gonna be a Pisces? Dear God, no. So.
All right. Bye.